do you want to introduce exactly who you are, all the stuff you've done?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I'm Jonathan Burroughs, and I'm currently one third of Variable State, which is my kind of indie game collective. That is, it's me and Terry Kenny and Lyndon Holland, and we are currently working on our first game, which has been in development since the start of the year. Um, and before that, I was in kind of mainstream AAA game development for about 10 years. Uh, Most recently at DeepMind Technologies in central London, where I met Terry. And then at the start of the year, left. And now, yeah, we've decided to go into indie games, which is very exciting. Yeah, that's kind of that's the gist.
So, I guess. So, why did you guys end up uh, shifting to indie games?
Yeah, so me and Terry, like, so we've known each other now for I guess about 2 years in total. So we started at DeepMind uh, about 2 years ago, and just the whole time we were working together, we were always uh, we're both really into indie games, and we were always commenting on the latest releases. Like we both got Gone Home at the same time. We're talking about Kentucky Route Zero. We're very excited about that, and it even got to the point where, um, in addition to kind of our day job, we were thinking, oh, why don't we give this a go in our spare time, and started throwing around the idea of making a game like in sort of October of last year, and then after the Google acquisition of DeepMind, and kind of what we left at DeepMind at that point, uh, we just found that we both sort of for the first time like in our careers, like Terry's been in games for about the same amount of time as me, about 10 years. We both found we finally had some sort of free time where we weren't doing a full-time job working on a project, and that it was the real opportunity for us to make something ourselves. So that was really like already existing enthusiasm for indie games, and then the opportunity just sort of presenting itself.
How's the transition been? Has it been like kind of? Has there been a lot of roadblocks for you guys, or has it been fairly fluid? I guess.
Yeah, I think it's been really fluid actually. It's been nerve-wracking and kind of anxious at times. Uh, uh, like you, I guess part of it's just the unfamiliarity with it. Like literally almost, except for like a couple of months for holidays, maybe here and there, it has been like non-stop 10 years doing games, working on big teams, working in sort of a studio environment.
Yeah.
And like the switch to indie, where you're responsible for everything, and like so the first things we were doing were like figuring out the engine we wanted to use, figuring out how we're going to set up our website, like what we're going to call ourselves, all these sorts of things. uh, like all of that's huge fun, and it was really sort of exciting just to rattle through that as quickly as you can, but you're always sort of a little bit anxious, are we doing this right, is someone else doing this better than us, and things like that. But like it's so good to be able to be sort of wholly responsible for something as well, and to really feel like it's yours. So that enthusiasm just carries you through all the time, I think.
I think it's just like very brave of people just to be like, you know what, I'm gonna get out of this and I'm gonna go do this, and uh, I don't know. It's just a really I feel like a difficult path to go as opposed to staying where you are.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was scary kind of initially, and kind of I don't know. It was something, obviously there's so many precedents of other people having done it, and you kind of think, oh well, there's sort of certain normality to it. But having that like a conversation with my partner, where I was saying, I'm going to effectively be staying at home for the next year or so. How do you feel about that? And that being quite weird as well, like working out of my living room, and not seeing people day to day in the same sort of way, is, I guess, that took a bit of getting used to. It felt really quite isolating at first. So I'm based in London, and Terry is based in Dublin in Ireland.
Oh, okay.
He moved over there towards the end of last year. So we talk to each other every day, and like multiple times in a day, like over Google Hangouts and stuff like that. But it's not the same as like being in a room full of like 10 or more people, and having those sorts of friendships and that sort of day to
Yeah,
day. Yeah.
that's interesting. I never thought of it that way. That you'd be like completely sectioning yourself off from like your coworkers and stuff. That's, I guess I just never thought about that aspect of it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, like, so initially that was like quite a I don't know, quite a loss, I suppose. But then, like, so quickly, just out of necessity, because you feel quite isolated. I started engaging so much more with like online communities. Like, I got on, I don't know if you know TigSource, the TigSource forums for indie game developers.
I do not.
Uh, Yeah, I'd recommend you check it out. It's a really great community. It's sort of place where people like, I think it probably became most prominent for Notch using it to devlog Minecraft, I think, back in the day. And like Lucas Pope of Papers, Please and Ed Key of Proteus, they put their devlogs up on there. And there's just this great community of indie gamers of all sort of calibers talking about what they're working on and there to offer you advice and support. So like that substitution has been really good, like encountering all these people in a different capacity. Like people that I followed on Twitter for ages, like excited about their games. Now you actually get to sort of hear their sort of directly useful advice on how to go about like using a Unity plugin or something like that.
Yeah, I was just about to ask. So, what engine did you guys settle on? Is it Unity?
It is, yeah, it's Unity. Yeah, so me and Terry had some experience of using Unity before, and so that always seemed like the logical engine to go for. But in addition to that, there was so to give you some context, I'm probably going to ramble on for a little bit. To give you some context, like when we first started out at the start of the year, we were both kind of aware that neither of us have a particularly strong background in programming. So my background in games development is as a level designer, a game designer, and a writer. So I've done some what you'd call like white boxing of levels and some like limited kind of environment art stuff and a limited amount of programming, but nothing that would really qualify as like sort of proper programming.
Yeah.
And Terry's kind of Terry's an incredible artist. He's like a real all-rounder. So he's a great illustrator and a graphic designer and a 3D artist. But he sort of mainly identifies as an animator. He's an incredible animator. So we were both kind of in the wilderness thinking we really want to make something with Unity, but maybe we don't have the skills to do it. And we kind of thought, well, perhaps we could, Terry and me could put something together as like a trailer for a Kickstarter pitch. And we weren't quite sure that was necessarily what we wanted to do. We were worried maybe it might seem a bit insincere if we were just saying, well, we haven't got a game, but this is what we would like to make. Will you give us some money? I know that's worked for a bunch of people. So I mean, I don't want to seem like I'm being negative about that approach. I think we're just scared that we'd mess it up or something. But then I don't know if you know Robert Briscoe, who was the environment artist on Dear Esther. He wrote this wonderful blog post where he was explaining about how he was porting Dear Esther from the Half-Life source engine to Unity, and he was saying, "Oh, I'm not really I'm an artist by trade. I don't really know much about programming." But he was using Playmaker, this kind of visual programming plugin for Unity. So we were like, it was sort of like a night and day moment where a light switched on in me and Terry's mind. We were like, "Oh yes, okay, we can make a game if he can make a game." And so we've been making use of Playmaker, which has just been incredible. Just to sort of be able to do like all kinds of stuff that I thought was sort of programmer only kind of stuff. It's just been really liberating.
That's. I know, like, these days, like, stuff is getting so much more accessible to so many more people, and I really think that's awesome because there's a lot of people with, like, really good ideas, but that no other game company would pick up. Like, games like This War of Mine that are being developed, and I think it's coming out later this year, where you're not fighting the war, you're surviving it kind of thing. And I don't know, I think that's a really unique perspective, and I don't think it would ever be picked up by a AAA studio,
Yeah, I think it's probably like that I feel like it's being attacked from two directions. I guess you're probably getting a younger generation now growing up who have so much more access to programming languages, and that's probably part of like school curriculums now, so much more than it was when I was at school. And then at the other end, yeah, you've got tools like, I mean, the new Unreal Engine has more or less like all the functionality that Playmaker's giving us in Unity. With its I can't remember what it's called. It's like a Blueprint or something like that. Their scripting system.
It's that engine's pretty crazy, but I think yeah, Unity like everybody, every indie guy that I've talked to is like Unity's awesome. So I don't know. It's pretty cool. I don't know. Hopefully, is Unreal's not free, right?
I don't think it is. I think it's kind of weird actually. You have to pay a subscription to use it, and then in addition, I think they take a royalty based on any profit you make in your final product,
Yeah,
which
I
seems a
think
bit
it's like
weird.
5% or something like that. But yeah, I agree. It is weird because Unity's much better about it. I guess they you can do it free to I think fool around, and then you can pay your subscription to publish whatever you have, kind of thing.
Yeah, there are certain features that are off limits
Yeah.
if you don't pay for like the pro version. Like we were running with the free version until like a couple of months ago, and then when our composer got involved, we wanted to make use of a certain audio plugin. We wanted to make use of Fmod, which had just in March. It was an incredible sort of fortunate series of events came to be. Like Fmod had just announced that they were doing a For Indies initiative where you could get this really powerful audio toolset for free, effectively, if you working on a budget beneath a certain amount, and we absolutely met that kind of requirement. But to use Fmod, we had to get some of the features in the pro version, so we started paying for that on a subscription.
I don't know if you can talk about it, but man, I don't know how to state it. Okay, so what genre of game are you guys planning on making? If you
Oh
can
well,
talk
yeah,
about
yeah, I think we can. So it's going to sound so vague, but I would, well, maybe not. I would say I would call it like it's a very narrative driven game. It's very much about sort of experiencing a story, and in many ways, I know a lot of people. There are a lot of detractors of kind of games like Gone Home and maybe Kentucky Route Zero and these very sort of mechanic light but narrative rich kind of games. Um, but like I really enjoy them. I feel like there's this like they offer something that's so distinct from watching a film. That ability to sort of inhabit a character and to be a character so removed from perhaps your everyday uh, life experience and in an environment that's so removed from the like your day-to-day life experience. And so that's what's really exciting about the thing that we were trying to capture in our game. So it's a character-led sort of story game, like an interactive drama, I guess. Even more kind of mechanics light than a sort of a Tim Schafer adventure game. It's very much just about experiencing a story. Um,
it.
yeah,
Okay.
that is kind of vague, I realize.
Well, I guess like so it's more narrative driven, like Gone Home. It's not like an RPG or something like that.
No, I think Gone Home is definitely one of sort of the like a point of reference for us. Yeah, more in that sort of vein.
Yeah, I don't know why. I guess I'm weird because I have like a really all over the board taste. I really like those types of. I like everything from Grand Theft Auto to Gone Home kind of style games. I don't know. I'm playing Lifeless Planet right now, and that game's amazing too. And I don't know. I feel like that's a lot more narrative driven than it is anything else. And I don't know. I just don't understand like the hate for it. If it's a good game, it's a good game, right?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Yeah, no, I try and uh, play a sort of broader spectrum of games as I possibly can. I really want to play. I've completely forgotten what it's called now. The one you just described.
Oh,
I know the
Lifeless Planet.
is that the one where you're like the little sort of caricature sort of spaceman and like a really sort of yellow desert planet? Is that?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I saw that on Steam. Yeah, I need to play that as well. But yeah, like the kind of the games that really engross me are probably things like StarCraft 2
Oh,
and
yeah.
like quite technical games and RPGs and things like that. Like I love Mass Effect
Mm.
and I'm really looking forward to The Witcher. But for whatever reason, the type of game that I want to make, I think that I could most
Readily
effectively
do.
make is sorry.
Oh, I said most readily do is the narrative driven.
Yeah, I think it's just what interests me the most right now.
That's yeah. I you just listed two of my favorite games, StarCraft and and Mass Effect. But um, Oh man, trying to. So I don't know if you can talk about it, but uh, what games did you guys work on at DeepMind?
So I probably can't say anything about it at all, unhelpfully. Uh,
That's fine. I just wasn't. Yeah, I wasn't sure, and I
no.
might as well ask, right? See what's
Oh
up.
yeah, no, 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 absolutely, no. I understand, of course not.
How did you guys end up leaving? Was it because of the Google acquisition, or was it something like you said earlier? Like it was just I want to make an independent game. I'm gonna break off from this and do it.
Yeah, so I think it's right to say about this. No, so it was just as a natural part of the Google acquisition. A number of staff, like they reduced the size of of DeepMind at that time, and a number of us, um, kind of just our sort of terms of employment came to an end. So that was that really. So it was just kind of it was just the opportunity sprang up rather than it's just a fortuitous circumstance, really. Like, just me and Terry getting on as well as we did, both being in a similar situation. I remember, I think we just probably, like right after, we probably had a sort of Skype call or a hangout or something like that, and kind of just, I think, smiled to us and said, well, we might as well make our game now, or something like that. And it just all kind of made sense. And probably haven't had a second thought about it ever since. We probably ought to reflect on that at some point and think about the business implications and all that sort of boring stuff.
Yeah, I think that's really lost in the thought process. Like, all right, we'll do this, and then you're like, oh my god, I need way more money than I thought, or or am I gonna make enough money to make this worth my while or whatever? Because yeah, I feel like a lot of indie developers get into it, and then they're like, oh my god, this is out of control. So I guess what would be your your top 5 games of all time?
Oh wow. Okay. Oh man, that's a real.
That's a really hard one. I know. I should have Skype messaged it to you beforehand so you could have written out something. I'm putting you on the spot.
It's probably better to put me on the spot. If I'd meticulously thought about it, you'd have got some awful list that I'd thought, what do these games say about me? Um, yeah, that's tricky, man. Like I would say, like games that are just sort of spring up in my head just sort of thinking about it. Like I remember being such a fan when I was at school of the Looking Glass studio games, like Thief in particular, and System Shock 2, like these precursors to things like Deus Ex and Bioshock.
Yeah.
Like System Shock 2, I think is just an immaculate game. I mean, I absolutely love it. It's terrifying. I love the storytelling. Like I remember playing Bioshock and thinking, this is like all the best bits of System Shock, but it isn't as good as System Shock. But I just remember so much of that game, like the sort of graphic design in it, like when the menus pop up and the RPG elements. And I remember there's a lot to sort of get frustrated about things like the weapon degradation systems in that. Like you'd fire a pistol 5 times and it would pack up on you
Yeah.
and stuff. But that I think that's definitely in the top 5, if not the top of the top 5.
Yeah. That game, it was System Shock. Yeah, the second one. I think that's the only one I played. I don't think I played the original. It's been a while since I pulled one of those out. But yeah, it's funny how much at the time I thought like, oh, weapon degradation is cool, and then once you start playing it, you're like, oh my god, I hate this. Every 5 seconds, I have to find a new weapon. And even today, like games like what is it? Dead Island with the weapon degradation. I hate it. I'm like, damn it! I worked so hard to build this weapon, and then it breaks on you. It's just, I don't know. I guess I thought it was a really fun novel idea, and now I'm like, oh my god, I wish it would never be made in a game again.
I know it really punishes you for having fun. But I don't know. I'm sure there were also, for all its frustrations, I'm sure it created these wonderful moments where I would sort of be in a really tense situation and the gun would pack up on me, and I wouldn't resent it. It would just be terrifying because I'd be faced with some one of those ridiculous sort of C3PO androids would be chasing me down a corridor, and there'd be nothing I could do about it.
Yeah,
So
well, yeah, that's the thing, right? It makes it super tense when you're in a full on battle with somebody, and I don't know.
yeah. No, I know what you mean.
It's
Um,
it's one of those things. It's like a double edged sword. You're like, oh, it makes these amazing, really tense moments, but at the same time, it infuriates you when when you've worked hard to get something and then it breaks on you.
I'm trying to think if there are any other games. Like, I don't think it's probably not fair to say it's like a top five game, but the game that kind of got me into game development was, I don't know if you ever played it, but Marathon 2 on the Macintosh,
Oh,
like a
yeah, the
precursor to
precursor
Halo.
to Halo, yeah.
Yeah, so when I was at school, I was really lucky that my school had like a really well equipped IT lab, and so we had a bunch of networked. I don't know if they were iMacs or some predecessor to the iMac or something like that. But there was a group of us, like this really cliquey group of sort of ultra nerds at school, and we would stay after school for an hour most nights, and because like some of them had like they had to like get picked up by their parents or something, they had to stay at school a while longer because the parents were at work, and some of us just volunteered to stay with them. But we would all play Marathon 2 Deathmatch on these network computers, and Marathon 2 was great because I mean, kind of like every game actually back then, it came with all the game development tools on the
Yeah.
CD. And
Right.
so you could, like in the summer holidays, my mum had to take one of my school computers home, so she like transcribed the school yearbook.
Oh, okay.
And so we'd have like a Mac at home, and I'd have my copy of Marathon 2 that I could only play at school. I didn't have a Mac at home normally. And then I would use the level editor to make deathmatch levels that we could then play when we got back to school the next year. And they were all like kind of typical arena kind of imitations of some much better existing Marathon 2 level, but that was how I started out anyway. Um,
Half-Life was that one for me. That's
oh yeah,
endless playing, endless building of levels. It was, yeah. It was actually kind of funny. Me and a couple of friends went to a police auction and bought a pallet of old computers for $1, and we stripped all of them down and made like 5 decent ones out of it, just to play Half-Life with a few friends. It was just one of those types of things that you do when you're a teenager. You're like, oh, it's gonna be amazing, and I don't know. It was just tuned up 486s basically, and that's just what's funny about it.
oh that's cool though. That's cool. I remember like my next door neighbor. Well, he wasn't my next door neighbor. We lived on the same street. Like he was a few doors down, and we used to like I would cart my whopping great compact desktop over to his house, so we could do like Command and Conquer Red Alert over a null modem cable or something like that. It was.
Command and
Then my
Conquer, yeah, that was something that got me into PC gaming. That was an amazing game.
Yeah, Red Alert in particular was really good, really good.
Yeah, it's too bad Westwood Studios disappeared, man. It's really funny because during the '90s, there's like tons of studios that I really loved that just died in the early 2000s, like Interplay, Westwood, Sierra. All those companies basically just disappeared in the 2000s, which is disappointing. I really liked Interplay's games before Bethesda took over Fallout and stuff like that. I don't know. They were during the '90s. I think they were more willing to be adult.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Like instead of just like crazy killing all the time, you could do so much stuff in Fallout 1. I don't know. I was talking to my girlfriend about it, and I was saying it's funny because you can be whoever you want to be. You can be a good guy, a bad guy. You can be a drug dealer, a grave digger. All sorts of crazy stuff in the game, and that's just stuff they would never put in today. And that's, to me, I don't know why, but it's sad.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I don't know if games like Wasteland 2 are trying to recapture some of those. I don't know those qualities, like some of the stuff lost as games. I guess have become. I guess like Fallout in particular, as it's become more kind of high fidelity and more expensive. Like there's, I guess, just perhaps, I guess partly if they're concerned about the market they're addressing, and partly just for practical reasons that they can't make as much stuff in those games anymore because it all has to be just to that much higher quality. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I have no idea. uh, yeah, I just bought Wasteland 2. Actually, I haven't had time to sit down and really enjoy it yet. Which I hope it's amazing. His previous games, I mean, Fallout is amazing. So I just can't wait to play it, I guess. But
Yeah.
everything keeps coming on all at once. You know, there's just a million games that have been out like recently. I mean, do you play a ton of games now, or is it limited because you're constantly working on your game?
I don't know. I think it's always been limited. I think like I don't know. I
School
own
got
an
in the
awful lot.
way, then work.
I mean, sorry. Mostly during work, like when I was at school, I played way too many games. But like, and even when, like, before I got into the games industry, I would still, I remember like Final Fantasies in particular, like massive Japanese RPGs that would consume weekends and things like that, like weekends of almost non-stop play,
Yeah.
and that doesn't really happen anymore. Like I think I've started an awful lot of games, and I've got an awful lot of games in my Steam list, and I noticed the Steam sales just around the corner again, and that's always deadly. But
Yeah, I know your wallet just thins out very quickly.
it it does. Um, but I don't know. I do try. Like I think I've always got a game on the go. I'm just trying to. Like, weirdly, at the moment, what I'm playing most is Halo 4 multiplayer, which I can't really justify. Me and my brother just really love uh, Halo 4 for for whatever reason. It was weird. We both got Titanfall at the same time, and we played a little bit of it and kind of liked it, but it just got us back into Halo 4. So that's all we've been playing.
it's it's funny. That's kind of the same way that me and my brothers did it. We all bought Titanfall, and we played it a little bit, but now we've reverted back to GTA 5 or Battlefield, and I don't know what it is about Titanfall that just makes me nostalgic for the. I don't know. It's a weird game.
Yeah, I
I
did.
mean,
I
like,
did.
why did you guys switch? I guess.
Yeah, I'm trying to think now. I do remember it for whatever reason. It didn't feel. It just didn't feel sticky enough for whatever reason, and I don't know what I necessarily mean by that. Like it wasn't because I guess it's got all like the typical sort of RPG elements, like RPG elements you see these days, if that's the right way to describe them, like the progression of the unlock of weapons and leveling up your character, which
Yeah.
Halo 4 has as well. It's really. I think there was something unsatisfying I found in the just sort of the kind of moment to moment sense of scoring. I never really felt was quite as rewarding as Halo. Like I remember finishing a match and having my score read out and not necessarily having a good sense of why I'd earned the points I'd earned or why I hadn't done as well as I had. There's something in Halo where that always seems really straightforward, and I don't fully understand that. Even putting on sort of my game design hat, I'm not completely sure why it didn't really work for me.
I yeah. I think for me it's personalization. You can't really personalize your character at all, or your Titan for that matter. And I don't know. I think today that should be a giving. Like people want to make their character special. I think that's one thing, but also, like you said, like moment to moment, you just don't feel like you're achieving a whole lot. I think, and there's not a whole lot of like really amazing moments. I suppose, like. Actually, one of the games we reverted to is Last of Us multiplayer, and that game in the multiplayer gets really tense, and some of the moments are just amazing. Especially when you survive something that you definitely shouldn't have. But I don't know. And there's the RPG side of it that you have to do good enough in the game to keep your clan alive, your survivors alive. So I mean, like, I don't know. Titanfall just didn't offer enough, I guess, for me.
Yes, that's like I mean what you described there. Those sorts of moments, like those little happenstances. that's the awful way to describe it. Battlefield is like the perfect game for that. These wonderful
Yeah.
emergent moments that you couldn't have predicted happening at all, or even well, no, that's not. I mean, the random stuff happens, but there are also those moments where you can spring a trap, or you can organize a scenario, and it all just works out, and it's absolutely beautiful. Like the sort of the big machine of how everyone's moving around this large map, and how what vehicle or weapon you're equipped with at a particular time versus the situation you find yourself in. I remember.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the first games I worked on as a professional games designer was. I don't know if you remember Battlefield 2 Modern Combat. It was like the
Yeah.
PS2
Oh my god.
Battlefield.
Uh, I I played that endlessly on my PC. I mean, it was it was pretty ridiculous.
Did you ever play the PS2 version though? So I think the PS2 version it was a completely separate multiplayer and single player from the PC version, although it had the same name.
I did not. I played the 360 version. Is it the
Ah,
same
yeah.
the same thing just ported? Is that kind of what it is?
If it was the Battlefield 2 Modern Combat, yeah, that's right. It was a port, yeah, of the PS2 Xbox version.
Oh,
Um,
I
but
did play that quite a bit also. Once once I got a 360 and my family had 360s and no one else that I was friends with really had a really high end PC. That's how I ended up playing Battlefield on the consoles.
oh, cool. Oh, I didn't. Oh, you might be the first person I've ever met who's played it. Well done.
I know. I think it's weird because like especially in those cases like I didn't know anybody else besides like my two brothers playing it, and that was like the only reason I ended up getting it was because I wanted to play games with them. So I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah. No, well, I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah, I don't know. How do you guys go? I guess now I'm getting off track. How do you guys go about like designing the levels so that you can use? And I can't remember if on the 360 you could still use planes and helicopters, correct?
You had helicopters.
That's right. You
For,
didn't
for
have
definite, yeah.
planes. You didn't
Yeah,
have
that's right.
planes. That's right. Uh, I mean, like, I guess how do you guys design a level so that it stops it stops tanks and people from going out, but allows choppers to basically go anywhere? I guess, like in a much larger arena, without like if you get too low to the ground, it blows you up or something. I don't know. I guess it's just an
Yeah,
interesting thing.
I'm trying to recall now. So this was like this would have been about 8 years ago, I guess. I
Yeah.
think. I remember. So I exclusively dealt. So it was an interesting situation. So I was a games tester originally with
Oh.
Electronic Arts, and did that for about 18 months. And then just one day they happened to send around an email saying that we've got this Battlefield game being worked on in a studio up in the north of England. Does anyone have any games design experience? Because they're a bit short-handed and they need to meet a really aggressive launch date. And I had my marathon experience, and I'd also done a bit of. I think I'd done some Half-Life 2 level design stuff in my spare time. I don't know. I've done bits and pieces, but mostly the marathon stuff. So I replied and said, "Oh yeah, I've done some games design," and didn't hear anything back. And then like it was the weekend or something weird like that, and I was out in town with a friend, and we were just in the pub. And then I got a call from my line manager. Like it must have been like a Sunday afternoon. It was the oddest thing to get. And he said, "Oh, okay, you've got the job. Do you want to go up and work in this town called Warrington for like, well, he didn't say at the time, for 9 months, but what ended up being like 9 months living in a hotel with a bunch of other people who I knew from the games testing group, like in this tiny little office together, all of us kind of learning how to do proper sort of level design for the first time. And so we were taking content, like the art content had already been done to a certain standard. So some of us were assigned to look after a particular environment that was kind of like the scale you'd expect from a multiplayer map, like a really big desert environment or a really big. I think there were things like towns, and one of my levels was set in this big desert environment. And it was absolutely the kind of problems that you were sort of speaking to, that you would have a mission that required that you get a team of men into a helicopter, fly to a waypoint, climb up a hill, destroy a building, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And to give the sort of, it was really important that the game captured the sense that it was the single player was as much like the. I just remember something else as well. I had this wacky mechanic called hot swapping, where you could, at any time, if you had line of sight on one of your allies, you could sort of beam into them. You could transition control.
Yeah.
Had this really cool effect where you'd like shoot over the landscape and then sort of get sucked into their head. I don't know how we did it in hindsight, because it was such a complicated exercise. You needed to be scripting AI behaviors for like a group of squad mates. You needed to sort of have all sorts of fail conditions to prevent people from flying outside the level and things like that. You needed to have people getting in and out of vehicles, and the enemy had to be doing all this as well. Somehow I did it. I can't remember how.
Yeah, it's. I know that feeling. I've worked doing like hardware qualifications and stuff like that, and people are like, "Oh, hey, could you help me set this up? I know you did a project that's a few years ago that worked with this. Could you help me?" And I'm like, I have no idea. We didn't write out the process very well, and you know what I mean. You look back on something, and you're just like, "Oh my god, I'm sorry, I can't help you anymore. You're gonna have to figure this out on your own."
Oh man, yeah, no, game scripting, and I think I get the impression from programmers I've spoken to, programming as well. You get these moments where you look back on something you did only months before, and it's just a black hole in your memory. Like, who was I when I wrote that? Why did I do this, and what does it mean?
It was the sleep or the insomnia and the coffee that just black holed your mind.
The worst thing is if it's something really brilliant and you don't know how to reproduce it.
Yeah. Oh, are you guys gonna do a Kickstarter? Now that I think about it,
I really don't know, to be honest. There's so like our current situation is me and Terry kind of are running off our savings, and Lyndon's kind of we brought on board. Lyndon, the composer, we brought on board. He's working with us really just voluntarily as a collaboration, which is incredibly generous of him. But like we've kind of scoped out. So we have done some sort of like businessy thinking and sort of looked at our savings and looked at how much like we spend on rent and stuff like that. And I think like we can carry on as we are until December or maybe a bit beyond. So I think at some point, the short-term plan is we're putting together enough content that we've got something like a demo, really, like what you'd call in mainstream development like a vertical slice. Like it's enough to give someone a flavor of what the game could be, and then we can start taking that maybe to like trade shows or like submitting it to, we were desperately trying to get it ready so we could send it to Indiecade, because Indiecade take demos and like work in progress stuff, but it wasn't really to quality in time. So we've sort of set ourselves the goal of the end of July for that. But even just because it's this weird, it sits kind of on the edge of like being like something you'd think of it as a game, and something you'd think of like it is kind of more story than game in a lot of ways. I was thinking we might almost take it to like art shows and things like that, if that's not too pretentious. I don't know. We'll try whatever we can.
Just get the name out, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's that kind of thing though. Like it sounds awful and kind of self-serving, but we're just trying to get like. That's sort of the mindset I've been trying to get into, is to not think, oh my god, you're being horribly narcissistic and self-serving and like telling people stuff they don't want to hear, and just if you don't talk about the game, people just won't know that it exists. So I mean, so I have to sort of convince myself that I'm not being sort of I don't know what the right word is. It's horribly corporate and sort of markety and stuff. I don't know. But I can't remember what your question was now. Yes, that's what we're doing. So we'll getting a demo together, and then at that point we might say we'll have to have a proper think about how we carry on up to December, and if there's any way for us to like get money to carry on beyond that. Like there's like what kind of thing? Look at things like you can get government grants and stuff like that. Maybe if your project's kind of sort of got an artistic sensibility to it and things like that. I don't know. It's hard to know. Kickstarter is an option, absolutely, though. I just think Kickstarter's kind of scary at the moment. Like it seems like that's so popular right now that unless you're you're a super hot, or I'm trying to think of other really big Kickstarters of late. Like you're like a Night in the Woods or something. You're going to really struggle to stand out.
Well, I've funded a couple of games that uh, barely got over the line, and you're right. It's hard to differentiate yourself, and I think I don't know. I try not to uh, donate to the companies that I think probably now have enough money. Like, uh, who was it? Double Fine with Broken Age. I felt like they probably could have done most of that without the $3 million, and I think another scary thing with Kickstarter is delivering. Like, you're worried about your customers and how they'll, or your donators and how they'll react to the game. Because to me, Broken Age was a little bit of a disappointment, and I don't know, spending that money to help it along uh, kind of disappoints. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it would really scare me with Kickstarter that you weren't. Yeah, it's a really difficult balancing act between you've obviously got to show your best, make a convincing case and excite people about the game. But you've also got to kind of be, like if you were a company and you were looking for an investor, they would do some sort of due diligence and make sure you've got the right number of people, you've got the right technical expertise. These people can actually achieve what they say they can achieve. But Kickstarter doesn't really. I don't think. I don't know. You'd have to be careful about. No, I'm not really. What am I trying to say? That kind of accountability doesn't really exist as part of the way Kickstarter operates. So, like, I would really want to make sure that I upfront factored in all the, like the costs, like, oh, how much tax am I going to have to give up out of any donations people give me? How much goes to Amazon, just because of their cut of the payments, and my cost of living expenses. Like, all of that eats away from the money that finally actually goes towards real kind of the hard grind of developing the game.
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
um, that was that was kind of dry and a bit boring. Sorry.
Oh no,
But
no, no, you're good.
I think that just scares me. Like you say, like either giving people the wrong impression about a game, like you market it so hard that you sell them a vision that you're just unable to deliver on, and disappointing people would be really heartbreaking and would be unfair, I think, on people who had kind of donated to you. And that would really scare me. So if we were to do a Kickstarter, I'd hope we'd do it right.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so you guys are planning on getting together a demo by July? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what we're working towards at the moment. Yeah.
So, I mean, if you make that marker, are you guys planning on hitting any of the U.S. Markets? I mean, you guys still haven't released the name of the game or anything, correct?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so we're kind of hoping like if we've got this playable, that would be then we should have some stuff where we could show people a trailer and we could show people like some proper final quality screenshots and stuff. Like we've put stuff up on Twitter already, like work in progress screenshots.
Yeah.
But by the end of July, hopefully we've got something like this. Should be a snapshot of our vision of what the game will actually look like. And it gives us a template as well. Like we know, oh, it took us this long to make this amount of stuff. It'll take this long to duplicate that. Now we've refined our ways of working.
Yeah. Yeah.
Demo is probably an unhelpful way of describing it, because I think people probably think, oh, well, that's like something you can put out or like put on your website for free or something like that. And it's kind of as much a demo for our purposes, proving our way of working and all that kind of stuff, and kind of proving out the game. Like at that point, we can start putting it in front of our friends, and like if we took it to trade shows, putting it in front of members of the public, and they could tell us if it's fun or not. I think we kind of need that sort of external verification, because it's been very much just in three people's heads for the time being, well, for the past 6 months.
So I guess I hope for this, but I from your words it seems like it might not happen. But I assume you guys aren't going to be at PAX Prime then.
Oh, I think we would love to go to as many. Oh, I don't think we'll be able to. No, I just don't think we can afford it. Like the cost of plane tickets out to America.
Oh yeah,
and all that stuff. I mean, we would love to. Like we were thinking, like particularly stuff like Indiecade and like GDC, and like GDC is sort of is like that's like seems to be like the ultimate destination for indie developers. There's so many good talks there, and it's where like all the E3 is all about the hype and the marketing machine and the business, it seems, and GDC seems to be so much more about the sort of ground level games development, like what's like new in terms of new game mechanics and new game ideas, and what are people talking about. And I'd love to go to that I think it's in March. There's a GDC in Europe as well, so I think we might be able to go to some of the European shows. We're thinking like Gamescom, GDC, Europe. There's a couple in the UK as well. Like if we can get into Eurogamers event, that would be really awesome.
I know it's driving me nuts because the last few indie people I've talked to are all in either London or in the surrounding areas, and I'm like, damn it, I can't see any of these games.
Oh man,
because I'm stuck in the States. Well, I mean, and I can't afford to fly out to wherever and do that stuff. But so you guys are planning to come to the stateside, possibly?
oh yeah, if we can. I don't know. I mean, it may even be just like with the savings that we've got. We just decide, the right balance is, we really need to get this in front of some people. We could probably afford for one of us to go out there for a little bit or something like that. Well, we'll have to see. I would love to, absolutely, come out to America. I haven't been to America, so it'd be a cool experience all around.
Yeah. What was it? Last year, I think what happened is a couple of the indie companies actually ended up sending or hiring some people maybe off of Craigslist or something to show up and show the game off. It was just funny, talking to a couple of groups. It just seemed like they were like, "Do you just want to play the game? We don't really have any answers for you." It was, I don't know.
We need one of those virtual presence robot things, so I could just Skype in and have some robot arms or something.
Here's the iPad. Play it on here. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I would love to see a lot more or a lot of these indie titles, but do you? I guess do you think there's a lot of a big revival thing going on in Europe, especially indie development? Because I feel like there was a ton of it in the States, and I didn't hear a whole lot from the UK and maybe even Europe for indie development. But now it seems like every time I turn around now, it's somebody from, Dublin or London or some surrounding area. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it probably coincides whenever you get. It's probably actually whenever a big AAA game comes to an end and you get the inevitable layoffs. It's probably always those sorts of moments where people decide to leave and set up an indie studio. That's definitely been I know some people off the back of things like the Fable Anniversary Edition. I know some people who left Lionhead and are doing an indie thing now, particularly around the south of England and the town of Guildford in particular, where there's Lionhead and Media Molecule and Criterion Games. There's just so many people moving into app development, and you're probably seeing that as well. You've probably seen a lot of people who got into app stuff, mobile stuff, when it was really hot to do that, and now that people are starting to realize that discoverability being what it is on mobile phone platforms, that maybe Steam and PC stuff is perhaps that maybe they're looking back at that kind of stuff. I don't know. I'm only speaking kind of anecdotally based on some friends. I know some people who released a couple of iPhone apps and are now I think doing some PC stuff instead. But I think that's probably mostly what it is. Whenever a company shuts down, you get a load of indie developers spring up.
I guess I'll let you go because, man, we're running up on almost an hour, and I'm sure you want to get home.
Oh, wow. It's been really great to talk to you, though, man. This has been really cool.
Yeah, it's been fun, and I'm glad to talk to you, and hopefully we get to see this thing soon. I'm kind of excited. I don't know. I love seeing indie titles come out, and it's just my thing. Anyway, it was good talking to you, Jonathan.
It was super cool talking to you as well.